Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. You all can see I have with me Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar for the part two of the discussion with regards China and what is happening with China in regard to the Ukraine war. The second part, as discussed, we wanted to talk about the China-India relations. India is coming out to be, something to be reckoned with as a power, as a voice within the world today. And I'm not saying this because I'm an Indian. Many people around the world are realizing that. So before we begin, why don't we give the viewers a short background of what we spoke about last time with regards Chinese internal kind of situations. We kind of gave them a talk about the population, the crisis with regards to the economy, the real estate sector is falling down. Then you've got a lot of pressure with regards to Russia coming in. Then you've got also the internal politics which is playing out about China. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think like we discussed in the last episode, there are fundamental problems with China which are not yet resolved. One, their population is aging. Their economy has slowed down. Their consumption has gone down. It is hitting record lows. Their real estate, which was a prime mover of their economy, right, is facing monumental problems. You remember that Evergrande crisis and all that? That has not blown over completely, right? So their home sales are at a record low. And what's worse, their entire economy, their manufacturing sector is working on wafer thin margins. At any point of time, if these margins go negative, you'll find mass closure of these factories in China, and they're already reaching that point.
Yes.
And what is worse is, in fact, to cap it all, at this point of time, the coronavirus is spreading fast in China, right? There are vast areas under lockdown. Cities like Shenzhen, which is the economic hub, is under virtual lockdown, right? And huge areas of industries are also under lockdown. The cases which are being reported are low. Why are they low? Because they are under lockdown. Why have they shot up from 100 to 3,000? That is because of ineffective vaccines, vulnerability of the Chinese population, and the fact that all of them have, the rest of the country, the rest of the world has gone through huge caseloads. The Chinese are not Superman that they'll not get affected. It's just that they've not been exposed. Now they'll get exposed, and they're getting exposed. Right? So they have to go through that cycle, which is ahead. So there is a problem in China. And in this problem, if they're going to have a geopolitical issue with Russia, and backing Russia, which is now coming out, there are other problems which will come up.
Oh, absolutely, sir. And as a matter of fact, what you just mentioned about the vaccines and stuff like that is also been mentioned by the head of the CDC in China. I'm sorry, Paul. You can probably Google this because his name is a bit, I'm still not really
that's okay.
Chinese name.
That's a fair one.
But I was reading a report where he actually mentioned that we need stronger vaccines. We need a better containment policy with regards to this thing. And there is a news story that has come out on the Reuters which talks about people literally screaming from their buildings about refusing of quarantine in Shanghai, which is again an economic hub of China.
Yeah, you look, it's very simple. China is going through that cycle which the rest of the world has gone any time between 6 months to a year back or a year and a half back. Okay. And there is a fatigue in China, this quarantine fatigue, this vaccination fatigue, this, mass testing fatigue. Some people, they're also human beings, they'll break loose and the government will lose control of the situation. If it doesn't lose control and it lets things go, it's all, any report I've read, it says that China doesn't have the medical facilities to handle a huge outbreak. It doesn't, its medical facilities in the cities are okay, but outside in the villages and all, it's not so great. So they have a problem. They have a mega problem. Haven't we gone through it in India?
Oh,
The
yeah.
same situation. Yeah. And I think our medical facilities are far better than China.
No,
Yeah,
we
I'm
stood
not
by it,
joking.
we went through it, and we are now shaking it off and moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not joking for the simple reason our vaccinations are better, our public health system is better, our vaccination framework is better, we understand this thing better. And right, our rural health programs are better. I mean, we might be critical of it internally, but that's the thing. So we are in a better state than China today.
I'd say most of the world, sir, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. I'm talking of India-China equations.
So one thing that we noticed with this entire fracas in Ukraine taking place is that there are now polars, kind of camps emerging in the world. If you look at it from the Western point of view, they will say, okay, there's Russia and China, which is sitting on one side, and then there's, of course, the West, which is sitting on one side. Each one of those camps also have little breaks here and there and stuff like that. And people are now acknowledging India stands bang in the center. How do you analyze this?
I think it's a very valid issue. There's a transatlantic consolidation which is happening under the leadership of USA. There's no doubt. Okay, EU and all. On the other hand, China-Russia relations are also strong, and they're going to get stronger. And this is not the Russian view. I'm talking of the Chinese view. The Chinese feel that they should, go with Russia as the new partner. Well, the reasons are different, but that is how it is. Now, amidst all this, if you see, a whole lot of people are making a beeline to India. Russia has given you subsidized oil or offered you subsidized oil. Mr. Yang wants to come to India, and he spoke that India and China should set aside differences and work towards common future and all that. You've seen the Australian Prime Minister is having a virtual summit with our Prime Minister, and he said, we understand what India has done, in its equation, its stand, and in its equation with Russia. But we have to look ahead with the Quad, right? You see the Middle East warming up to India. You see our neighbors warming up to India, right? Now you see Japan has come. He's in their huge investment. Why? They see stability in India. They see stability in India for many reasons. You got over the virus like no one else. You look at this point of time, others having a major wave outside India.
Yeah.
You're not having anything. You've probably gone past that. Your economy is rebounding. It will have weaknesses. After all, 2 years of problems, it will not rebound immediately, but the rebound has started. You're out of the Ukraine crisis. You're not affected by it. You see Pakistan going down on one side. I don't know, it is no more a thing. You see China itself having internal problems, which you said. So people see India as somewhere where there's a lot of stability. That is the reason why everyone wants India by its side.
A lot of people sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of people term that as pressure, but
it's not pressure. Why should no one invests $42 billion in under pressure like Australia is prepared to do.
Yeah.
No one wants to invest $1 trillion over or more, which Japan is prepared to do. Right? It's not. The neighbors are not fools to say no. Now we want India by our side, whether it's Nepal or Bangladesh or China, Sri Lanka. I mean, it's not. Right, just because USA is a little khatti with us and they are a little miffed that we didn't toe their line, doesn't matter. Anyway, their team is also coming. It's a matter of time that they'll this thing. And you can't take one thing away from India. India still is the dominant player in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
Whether it's trade routes, location, whatever you call it, you hold the choke points into the Indian Ocean. So there's no question of getting away from the geopolitical and geophysical reality. Okay. So I have no doubt about it.
No, as a matter of fact, there are also news about the Israeli Prime Minister coming to India on the April 2nd.
Yeah, he will. He will come. That's also a strategic partnership which has grown from strength to strength.
And the Emirati army delegation is coming into India for a
Yeah,
joint exercise.
I mean, look, anyone who thinks India is in a weak position today um, doesn't know India and probably doesn't know geopolitics either. I mean, I'm being very blunt about it.
So let's talk about Wangi for a minute. You
Yep.
mentioned the factor that this, in about 2 weeks back, I think we also spoke offline that suddenly his tone towards India kind of mellowed down, and he said, this is futile. We should not do this. We should get back to trade and people to people contact. And the regular diplomatic spiel was given by him. Now suddenly there is about, I don't know how far he's going to actually come in, but there are talks about him landing up in India end of this month, beginning of April, sort of a thing. What do you think he's looking for before we talk about what India should do?
See, like we said, uh, one, there's a transatlantic consolidation. There's a Russia-China partnership which is dominant. Now, in this, wherever India puts its weight, will be the dominant geopolitical grouping. And India's position is reinforced by what we just spoke. So many people interested in India, investing in India, coming, looking towards India, everything X, Y, Z. So obviously, India has weight. What is he coming for? He is coming to revive the BRICS. He is coming to revive the RIC, Russia, India, China triangle, right? He is coming. He'll probably even talk of the Shanghai Cooperation, SCO organization revival, right? And he will talk of increasing trade. See, if consumption, he also knows that Chinese exports will get hit in the Europe and in USA because of this bipolarity, if I may say, which is developing. He looks at markets. Where will they go? So they need India. China needs India today more than India needs China, right? And the flip also is right. The Western world also needs India more than India needs the Western world. I mean, I'm being very categoric about it. They are going to be in a mess. I've already written about the lose-lose equations of this the Russo-Ukrainian war. Everyone is going to lose, and the only way they can rebound is to have a strong partnership with India today.
In Indian political language, that's known as a kingmaker. But anyways,
but I'll not look at it that way. Right? We have to look at our interests.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about this, we also saw the biggest rabid, news publication of China. This is actually yesterday. Global Times had put out an article that we respect Indian strategic autonomy and it is going to benefit India in the long term. Now here is somebody who's been dedicated to push India down for a long time. Do you see Chinese tunes changing internally as well?
Why Chinese? Even Pakistani tunes have changed. With Imran Khan, talking what he spoke. If Pakistan feels that way, why won't China feel that way? And this is all the run-up. How can China woo India into this Russia-China-India triangle and get it away from Quad and break the Quad, break the Western alliance? They're worried. Let's be very frank.
Yeah.
We also have to remember that the India-Japan equations are strengthening, and China-Japan equations or South Korea-China equations are not exactly flowering, and they see problems there. So India will have to, look at itself differently and see issues differently. This entire Sino-Indian equation, we now have to talk from a position of strength.
The language that the Chinese understand, sir.
Yeah, we should. I mean, being diplomatic about it, but we should talk from strength.
Of course. So what do you think, how do you think we should go about it? Because we've also got certain grouses to kind of, put across to China and not behave properly with us on the border and a whole lot of other things. What do you think we should kind of take forward with them?
Fundamentally, we have 2-3 issues with China. Look, let's put it historically or civilizationally. Civilizationally, India and China have never had a problem from till the last century when both got independence. It is only that after that buffer called Tibet was taken off that our problems have started. And with the 1962 war. Till then, the equations were very great. We learned from each other as civilizations. Now, okay, given that as it may be, what are the current problems? Obviously, the first problem is the border. It's unresolved. Forget unresolved, the issues of Eastern Ladakh have also not gone away. We've had 15 rounds of talks with Corps Commander. And for the past 3 or 4 rounds of the Corps Commander's talk, that issue of PP-15, like hot springs, that has not been resolved. Okay. After Gogra, it's almost a full stop. Right? If they feel that, giving hot springs back, or rather moving away from hot springs, is the only card before India-China relations can normalize, they're mistaken. It needs also Demchak and Depsang to be resolved. Then you have to also look at the larger LAC before any kind of normalization takes place.
The East, you've got
yeah, all that. So far, nothing has happened. So why should we go towards China is the biggest question. That's the first thing. So there's a lot China has to do on the border. In fact, they have to give up this business of South Tibet also, from my side of it, my way of looking at it. Because that South Tibet itself is a illegal claim. Because South Tibet came after a MOU with China.
Yeah.
Of us recognizing Tibet and they recognizing Sikkim. And yeah, that was a de facto thing saying, okay, virtually that McMahon line should be recognized and the existing border should be recognized. Okay, that's the fundamental of your border peace tranquility agreement. So they should give up all this. There are a whole lot of issues before we can even think of normalization from here. Okay, so that is one issue. Second, okay, you get into a RAC partnership, and you get into a good equation with China. What do you do with Pakistan? वो तो iron brother है भाई. Higher than the mountains and sweeter than honey and deeper than oceans kind of a. What do you do with them? What do you do with CPEC? What do you do with their illegal activities in Gilgit-Baltistan?
Shaksgam Valley.
What do you do with
Shaksgam Valley?
Yeah, Shaksgam Valley is okay, far back. What do you do with they're building those dams over River Indus?
Yeah.
Right now. Okay. So there are huge issues with Pakistan. Then what do you do with China making inroads into our neighbors? Luckily, our neighbors today are almost with us, or rather, they're tending towards us. But we know that they've created problems for Nepal. They've created problems in Nepal. They've created problems in Bhutan. They've created problems in Sri Lanka, and in Bangladesh, and in Myanmar, and in Maldives. So, what is the equation between India and China in the neighborhood? What is the level with which India is comfortable with of Chinese presence? Do we have any guarantees there? Or do we have any understanding or the base level, okay, beyond this you can't go? And the next point is, what do we have an understanding what we can tolerate? What happens if a similar situation like Russia-Ukraine develops? Will we fight for any of these? I mean, look, we have a parallel. Huh? We've done what we had to do in Doklam. Okay. So, what are our red lines that we will not allow them to cross? We should be clear about these issues. Then what about trade surpluses? They want to close their markets down, but they want us to open our markets. So these 4 issues, or I won't say trade surpluses, or trade imbalance. So these 4 issues, these 4 issues of border, Pakistan, neighborhood, and trade. Unless there's some modicum of understanding on this, how can you swing towards China? Whether the West is with us or not is irrelevant. Okay, we can't There's no way we can think of this, right? And we also have to understand today in the emerging equation of China and Russia, Russia will be the junior partner.
Yeah.
Russia will be getting bailed out by China in future. Earlier it was not so. They had some sense of equality. Not now. China will be seeking to set the terms of that partnership. So if we even have our equation with Russia going, we should be careful. Because is Russia a reliable defense partner hereafter? So we have to take it just on this issue. So these are the issues which we have to think of when we talk of China or enter into any agreement or any understanding with them. And we also have to understand that any understanding and any agreement with them has been violated by China unilaterally. That's our history.
Yeah.
How do you trust them?
That's my next question. Actually, how do you build the confidence between both the leadership and the country and everything?
So, yeah, I've given you those 4 points. The first is they should step out of that border. Unless we have a clear understanding, as far as I am concerned, the first step to normalizing Sino-Indian relations is the border. Okay. Even in that, if I put the steps down, they have to get back from Demchok and Depsang.
Everything.
That's the first. Everything. Go back to 19 or pre-20 situation. Then they have to resume negotiations on the border to come to a mutually acceptable solution. They have to renounce South Tibet or renounce their claim on Arunachal as South Tibet. These 3 are fundamentals. Unless some movement is made on that, there is no way. The rest of the things are later their story. Okay. And of course, simultaneously, they have to start distancing themselves away from Pakistan.
That's an unsaid.
So, unless these happen, can we go near China at all?
It's a tall task, sir.
It's a tall task. Okay. And all right. Then you have to see whether China, even if it wants to come, does it have the political stability today and the strength to put through all this?
Yeah.
India has the political strength and stability today because of the party in power is quite dominant, and for some time it appears dominant. We have stability here. You have reasonable economic stability here. Yeah, I mean, you'll have problems in a country like India. That's okay, but right? Why should we even give an iota of leeway to China today? I'm not being a hawk. We should do dialogue. Dialogue is okay. Okay, but we should work to our national interests.
Seems very fair. So it's not anti-China in any way.
Yeah, we're not being anti-China. In the long run, it makes sense to have a neighbor like China with good relations.
If they get some sense into there, it's probably more sensible for them to kind of be stable with India.
Yeah, and this is not going to happen in a hurry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Political instability, I think we covered in the last time. So, whoever wants to kind of check out what the details are, please go to the last video and kind of go through the last question where we talk about political instability in China. There's a lot which is happening there. And of course, what General Shankar mentioned as the introduction to this talk also creates a lot of instability within China. And there are opposition voices which are coming out. So we talked about Russia for a minute, and I'd like to go back to that. And that's a scary preposition when we say that if Russia-China kind of get together, the India-China relations are going to be far off. It's not a next minute sort of a thing. And Atmanirbharta also is not a next minute thing. So that gives a bit of a gap for a constant flow of weapons in terms of their spares and this, that, and everything. And of course, any new acquisitions that need to be done as well from Russia. So, how do you look at that situation developing in the future?
See, we have to take a hard look at Russia as a partner. One, if Russia is going to be the junior partner with China, what are we doing having a great equation with Russia? Let's put the Indo-Russian partnership equation in perspective. We should also not forget that the Russia during the Soviet time was a different Russia. The Russia today is a different Russia. Okay, and tomorrow's Russia is going to be even more different. We should not also forget the fact, just to give you an example, that they've been skinning us on defense purchases. If you take just the thing of Admiral Gorshkov, which is our aircraft carrier today, Vikramaditya, they've actually hiked up the price 2-3 times.
3 times, yes.
Yeah, right, and to things which were not, and delayed. So have they been greatly reliable to us? Might not be, but at the same time we need them. There's no choice, because a lot of our equipment is Russian vintage. Okay, so we have to have a plan, about which I've written in one of my articles, the decreasing dependence on Russia. I mean, there are methods how to go about it. That's a different story. But if you have continuous dependence on Russia, and Russia is going to be China's good friend, we have a problem. And if we are going to be the good friend of the Western, if we at this point of time, if our Western partnerships, like with Quad or Israel, or for that matter, I wouldn't say Israel, say Europe, we still have strong partnerships with Europe.
Yeah.
We have almost a strategic partnership with. It's not almost; it's a 2-decade strategic partnership with USA, right? And this is heading towards into a wobbly partnership. Where do you throw your weight in? To me, I would. Why should a democracy like India be with two autocracies like Russia and China, who are good friends with Pakistan? That's a core issue. If you can get Atmanirbharta going, you can, keep Russia at arm's length, right? And part of Atmanirbharta, whatever you do, the Westerners also should now help us to reach that Atmanirbharta if they want us that side. Are we bidding for that? We're not asking for technology. I mean, they can keep the technology with them and or share technology. If you're going to be partners, let them share technology. So there are issues which are where we have to talk Turkey with the West, whether it's France, whether it's Germany, whether it is Britain or USA. So that if you want that relationship to deepen, they need to help us to get off the Russian, dependence. So these are the issues which are confronting us, and of course we'll do what we have to do. On that, I have no doubt at all, right? And overall, I'm also very clear that we have to go the Western way.
Mm.
Okay, and we have to also understand that the problems which the West has with us, they have immense problems with us. Their way of thinking, our way of thinking is different, but because our populations are different, our sizes are different, everything is different. So we have to come to some mutual level of understanding.
That is what it is. As a matter of fact, the problems with the West are clearly enunciated by Biden yesterday, who actually said that India is a bit shaky on the issue.
Look, he's shaky on the issue of Quad. Okay, Quad. I think at this point of time, I will even ignore what he has said, because they are too preoccupied with Russia. And there is a bit of a insensitiveness always coming out of USA. USA, we have to understand, we are in a strategic partnership with a country which is sensitive to its own needs and least sensitive to others' needs, and this is their history. So we should know how to handle them. This is the problem which Pakistan also faced with USA. This is the problem the Middle East faces with USA. That's why the Middle East is also at least some of these Middle East kingdoms are turning towards China.
Romanticizing.
So all these issues, yeah. So all these are issues. All these are live issues.
That's true. Israel also finds itself in a bind because of similar reasons.
Yeah, with similar reasons.
Yeah. So
we have to find our way.
Absolutely. And it's basically talking tough. I mean, let me just break it down. You're basically saying we need to not talk tough, but we need to ask for whatever we need to have from both the sides. It's not just West or...
Yeah, I think we need to be very clear that where we should go, where our national interests take us. And we should be very clear about it and we should be firm about it. Okay. And we cannot compromise our national interests. Luckily, we have this, we've been following this for a long time and we have the capability to do so. We have the ability to be multilateral. So we should just continue with it.
Yeah, it's not a new thing for India. India has been...
It's not a new thing for India.
Doing this for a while. And, the point about actually siding with two autocratic, authoritarian sort of regimes is also pretty dangerous because you really don't know what's going to happen in those kind of countries.
Yeah, we don't know.
Things blow up at a moment's notice. So,
yes, I agree with you.
That's
See, this entire discussion leads us back to Mr. Wang's visit. Okay. What does our discussion tell you? What should we talk to Mr. Wang? How should we talk to him?
Absolutely. So the stuff that is important to us is something that we need to put across. I mean, there's no two givings and giving back on that. And I think him coming here himself and proposed by the Chinese, and if the visit actually just falls through with the entire game as is being said right now, I think the position of strength, the first step has already been taken. I think India needs to be a little more firmer in its next way, sir. So what would you advise is the next course of action for us? There's a lot. India is pretty much in the news the whole day in the world arena. What should we do now?
I think we should stick to our course. We're already on course. And of course, the one factor which keeps coming back in every discussion I have, wherever I had, is Atmanirbharta. Atmanirbharta has to be a national mission.
Yeah.
Attaining strategic independence or strategic autonomy has to be a national mission. Unless we make this our national mission in some form, whichever form, we are going to struggle.
Cannot be dependent on anybody else for anything. I mean, as large as possible and strategic things. That's something I think that's the bottom line. And especially on defense, it has to be done immediately. There's no question about it.
No, it's not only in defense. I've always identified 5 aspects where we have to be Atmanirbhar. One is water. India is a water deficient nation. Unless we have reforms in the way we use water, we're going to have problems. If you're going to industrialize and reform your agriculture, you need water. So that is the first thing. The second is you have a great strength in health. Whether it's vaccination, doctors, API, pharma industry, everything. You have to maximize on that. You have to be the health center of the world, including health technologies. You have to invest into health technologies. You have to invest in AI. You have to invest in data in health. That's the second part. The third is, of course, Atmanirbhar in defense. Everyone understands that. Okay. The fourth aspect of Atmanirbharta is digital economy. Whether it's semiconductors, whether it's processors, all these issues you have to take into account, right? And the fifth part is energy. We are dependent on fossil fuel energy and thermal energy to a large extent, right? How can we get into clean renewables in a big way? How can we get into nuclear energy in a big way? We have the biggest reservoir of thorium in our country. How can you maximize that for your energy requirements? So if these five items, because if you want to grow as an industrial nation, a manufacturing nation, and anything, you need energy, right? And you have these five, if you see, will increase your existing strengths in, say, your nuclear program, your space program, and your missile program, and also the other programs of that you are a food secure nation today, right? And you have the biggest, you're one of the biggest producers of milk and other things of our economy. So if you put all this together, you'll still be short of a few technologies. There's no problem, but you'll be strong in core issues. That strength in core issues will allow you to trade and barter and get hold of others, because you can't be good at all. And if you attempt to be good at all, you will fall flat. But if you attempt core issues, you'll succeed.
Stuff that was spoken about in terms of digital India and all that about 4 or 5 years ago, people didn't take it seriously. And today this is coming out to be a need in terms of our future. It's
Yes, there's no doubt.
that important today. And of course, India adapts pretty fast. There's no question about it. The way the digital economy in terms of payments and this and that has gone through the country has been amazing. So I hope we are able to adapt with many more such issues that you actually mentioned and talk from a position of strength. I think that's the bottom line with China. Let's see how this visit, if it happens, how does it go forward, and what are the outcomes of that. We'll probably take it forward once we get a certain set look at whatever statement that comes out or any outcome that comes out on the ground. Thank you, sir, for joining me. And I'd like to leave the viewers here with a little bit of a comment. We are shortly going to plan a series of episodes with regards to the lessons from Ukraine that India must learn. There's a lot that can be learned. So we will keep this series forward. And if there are any suggestions, you all know, please write to my channel. My email ID is right there in the description. Please get in touch with us so that we can think about it, mull it over, and see if we can actually talk about those issues. Thank you so much, sir. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Thank you.